today? Today we're jumping into Ted Bundy, Conversation with the Killer, the Bundy tapes. We have one more episode to go, and then we're going to be wrapping up the Bundy tapes, and we'll be going on to another one of these crazy serial killer people. When we get to the fourth episode, I'm going to then ask everybody to please once again comment down below, because it's been such a long time, to comment down below of what areas you want us to go into next for our true crime or true documentary type situations. There's a lot that I've been seeing on Netflix. I do know there was one particular that everybody always talks about, and I forgot what it was, but we'll talk more about that on episode 4. So in this episode, I do remember the last time I saw this show, Ted Bundy escaped prison. He jumped out the window or something. He just jumped out the window. So we're going to, I guess, figure out where the hell he went. Did he go on another killing spree? Like, what is this man's deal? I'm ready to jump right into this. As always, it's going to be available for a full reaction from my second and third tier here on the YouTube platform, as well as my other platform, Patreon. So guys, please sign into one of those platforms and help support the channel today. Without further ado, let's jump into Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes, and find out exactly what this show has got to give.
We're up in Aspen. We're scheduled for a preliminary hearing. The court proceedings were going very well. We took the morning recess, as always. Ted was in the back of the courtroom where the law library is. I was sitting out in the hallway having a cigarette when the sheriff's deputy came along and they asked me if I knew where Bundy was. And I said, not really my turn to watch him. Somebody from the first floor came up and said somebody jumped out of the second floor window. And that was it for the court proceedings for the day.
Theodore Bundy has escaped from an Aspen, Colorado courtroom.
He jumped out of the courthouse and he was gone.
Obviously, they weren't paying attention to how significant this serial killer was.
Guards waited outside the room, but Bundy was alone inside when he decided to open that window and jump. From here, Theodore Bundy decided to head for the hills.
He kind of let him roam freely throughout the courtroom. It's inconceivable to me that you would have somebody accused of first-degree murder and that your security level would be so low.
I really don't know what happened this morning. The guard was at the door, and the last time he looked, the defendant was there, and the next time he looked, he was gone.
Will he be disciplined for that?
I assume so.
Why is he laughing?
I remember the beautiful, clear morning saying to myself again and again, you must go, you must go.
There's only 2 roads out of Aspen. How's he going to get out of here?
So far, these roadblocks have turned up no sign of Ted Bundy.
We go around talking to the police about the escape. What do you know about it? Nothing.
People are showing up on horseback with the bandoleros strung across their chests with rifles.
The department said 150 men and 5 bloodhounds combed the canyons around Aspen.
They didn't know where in the world I was, and I was feeling really good.
The scent from a sweater Bundy left behind, dogs did track him to a bridge in town, then they lost the trail. The search around Aspen, now in its 3rd day, is being wound down.
The FBI entered the case because Bundy became an interstate fugitive fleeing from justice. And then the FBI was not much help. They didn't know anything that the locals didn't already know.
Very cold sleep and rainstorm hit me, and I got very cold, and I went into a state of shock. That night, I walked back into Aspen because I was cold and hungry. And I just said, well, let's just see what happens.
Suspected multiple murderer Theodore Bundy is back in custody after an absence of nearly 7 days.
Told officers he broke into this cabin where he ate and slept Wednesday night.
I noted a vehicle driving erratically, pursued it, contacted it, and found Mr. Bundy driving it. Took about 2 glances. He was pretty altered. His appearance had been altered by glasses.
From the blisters on his feet, and he weighed 25 pounds less than he did last Tuesday at the time of his escape.
He came past me and he turned to me and said, "Hi, Ward." The 3 other reporters standing around me said, "Who the hell are you?" He was a narcissist, along with being a psychopath, so I think he watched every TV newscast he could.
No courtesy officers believe that I would be depressed. The debility of it all would shake me. My exhaustion notwithstanding, we were barking up the wrong tree.
Called and we talked and talked for about 15 minutes or so.
There's still the scars and the blisters on my feet. I'm sitting here barefoot, paranoia about me, and I'm going to escape or something.
I can't imagine where they're getting that.
Any impressions about all that you've been hearing about me and
I had mixed impressions. I was wondering if you were really getting uptight.
I just got sick and tired of being locked up, and over the months I'd noticed a number of opportunities to just walk right out. I was living my ultimate dream. It was just an incredible experience.
You talked about how lucky people were to catch him and how stupid the people were who caught him. And I thought to myself, those things may be true, but you're the one in jail and those are the ones who are on the outside.
That's what he hoped to avoid. He didn't really accomplish much by escaping. He's back in jail. That hearing resumes Thursday.
Liked being the center of attention, but did not understand what kind of trouble came with it.
This kind of boldness that we see from time to time in this personality, willing to take risks, or perhaps not even seeing risks.
Understand how he thought. You have to be able to project yourself into a sociopath's brain. It's a point of pride with me that I can.
From detection, as if he were in a dimension that he just kind of like walk through doors. No matter how much he fucked up, nothing could go wrong.
It is in prison waiting for trial for the murder of Karen Campbell. That evening, a guard, as usual, brought him his food and left. He looked over and Bundy appeared to be in his cot, asleep. Back the covers, he finds nothing but a pile of books where Ted should have been. There was no Bundy.
New Year's Eve, 1977.
Bundy, starved down to less than 140 pounds, slipped through a hole in the ceiling of his cell and was free again.
He managed to climb on some books, lift himself into the ceiling apartment of one of the jailers, which was above. Took some of the jailer's clothing and walked out the front door.
It's the one where he just disappeared and no one knew where he went.
I was so disgusted with what had gone on. I think it was a travesty.
Anybody who's been harmed by Mr. Bundy's leaving Garfield County can fully to follow up and file charges against people.
Situation, it was like Bundy can control himself. He had this opportunity and took off.
People began looking everywhere because a serial killer doesn't quit until he's stopped.
We were afraid that he might be coming back to the Salt Lake area, and we certainly didn't want him back there.
The magnitude of it was just very overwhelming and shocking.
And of course, we'll assist any way we can with Colorado to see that he's apprehended.
Oh, we contacted everybody we could think of, threatened them all with arrest, all an effort to try and get them to tell us everything they could about Bundy.
James McConkey approved processing the document, which brings the Federal Bureau of Investigation into the hunt for Ted Bundy.
Federal warrant was issued on January 5, 1978 at Denver, Colorado. Bundy with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution for the crime of murder.
For the moment, Theodore Bundy is merely an escaped convicted kidnapper.
FBI were limited in their reach to the general public. Ted was just a legend in his own time zone.
The FBI knows that people or creatures of habit wait for a person to assume those habits again. Parts of my life are distinctive and then change them. It's not seriously difficult to do it all.
Detectives tried to track a man who slipped into a sorority house early yesterday and murdered 2 women.
The killer came in from the night and then returned to it with an ease that has so far baffled police.
Caller on the other end of the phone saying, "Sheriff, may have as many as 4 dead. As I arrived, they were taking girls out on stretcher."
Found Margaret Bowman asleep. She never woke up. Further down the hall, Lisa Levy was asleep. She too died without regaining consciousness. It's Karen Chandler and Kathy Kleinert survived their attacks. Both were asleep.
End up brutalizing 1, 2, 3, 4. Shocked even all of us who have seen brutalization before.
I think he just went in and hit him. I just don't think they had a chance to cry out.
There are some real unusual noises coming from a duplex. Sounds like somebody is really being beat up. And I said, could it be? Same person have gone to another location?
You asked all these questions while that was happening?
Do something like this. They're on the lam. They're gone. A dance major, brutalized, beaten to their death, and 3 to his certainty that he had killed them. I saw that there was mutilation by mouth, very imprinted, double bite mark.
Brother say we've got a very disturbed, sick individual.
Today we've been keeping our doors locked during the day too, which we don't usually do.
There'd never been a crime like this before in Tallahassee. There's a 28-year-old journalist down at WFSU TV in Tallahassee. He had co-eds who were savagely attacked. And nobody knew who was responsible for this, but they were still out there. You'd hear helicopters flying overhead at night, buzzing across the city.
Police continue to guard the Chi Omega house around the clock, but the girls who live there haven't slept in the house since last weekend, and there's no word on when they'll return.
Everybody wanted answers. Obviously, we didn't have any answers. We started working on getting together a profile of the type of person we might be looking for. Go out and find the person. It just doesn't work that way.
Just running down every lead to the nth degree, rather than allowing anything to slip by.
Door locks, padlocks. I mean, the stores were selling out of everything.
He's missing for 40 days.
People left keys in the car, in the driveway. Kids just walked all over town.
12-year-old Kimberly Diane Leach went to school Thursday, February 9th, here at Lake City Junior High School. She exited this building and walked across this basketball court. Whereabouts of Kimberly Diane Leach is unknown to the Lake City Police Department. A wide search has been made for Leach in Lake City.
That day in Pensacola had been one of the best I'd spent. This is the way to start out 1978, laying on the beach and on the Gulf of Florida. Satisfied with the way things were.
He just went to the beach.
After a high-speed chase Wednesday morning in Pensacola, Florida, he claimed to be a Florida State University law student.
Who is this man? He was arrested driving a stolen Tallahassee car used to give his name to authorities, and he resisted arrest with violence.
Fighting, I did manage to subdue him by striking him with my revolver.
He was being held in Pensacola County Jail. He had another name.
29-year-old Kenneth Meisner of Tallahassee, and even had ID cards to prove.
Notified us and said, hey, that's not me. I'm here.
Driver's licenses in 1979 in Florida were printed on a little piece of paper.
When the real Meisner was located at home, he admitted the IDs were phony.
Are you acquainted with or are you familiar with the charges against you as outlined by the state attorney? This is for possession of stolen property and automobile, battery on a police officer, and resisting arrest against violence. Daily miles to we don't even know who he is. He won't tell us who he is.
Certainly entitled to a bond in any event, I think. John, the public defender, heard the man admit just now that he's not the person.
Until we find out who he is, there's no way we can bail him out.
So it became an information gathering process. It was a stolen vehicle, stolen from nearby the Chi Omega house.
Spent several hours quizzing Mr. Mystery about the slayings last month of two Florida State University co-eds.
He was reluctant. He started playing games.
He says what he wants to, and he's very careful about how he says it.
Started unraveling.
The traumatic effect on my mind and body was.
I needed a friend. I needed somebody close to. I didn't want a cop or an attorney. I was sick and tired of cops.
Identified himself in exchange for a phone call to his girlfriend Liz.
He repeated over and over again that this was really going to be bad when it broke, that it was not going to break until tomorrow morning. If he was referring to the murders of some sorority girls in Florida, and he said that he wouldn't talk about why he was the way he is, and I said, are you telling me that you're sick? Really defensive, and he told me to back off, told me that he was sick and that he was consumed by something that he didn't understand. So much time trying to maintain a normal life, and he just couldn't do it.
Ted was identified, and at that point, the jig's up, right? It was remarkable that Ted was able to elude the police for so long. 100 different ways, depending on just the angle that you caught him. And Ted told me that after he escaped Colorado, he got himself on a bus. Denver got a flight to Chicago, watch his alma mater, the University of Washington, played the University of Michigan in the Rose Bowl. Spent the night in a sanctuary of a Methodist church. Takes a bus to Tallahassee and Florida State University.
There was the very opposite end of the country from the Pacific Northwest. On the likelihood that Florida would know anything about Ted Bundy was remote.
In the late 70s, we didn't have the technology that we have now.
Authorities, including the FBI, had a very limited number of tools. Imagine a world where most of the communications is done by U.S. mail or rotary telephone.
It was a traffic stop.
Wow.
A traffic stop that we got him on.
Kathy McChesney read it in the newspaper that Bundy had been arrest.
Ted was a absolutely prime suspect for Chi Omega.
The 21 credit cards Bundy had with him were stolen in charades. Are next to the Chi Omega sorority on Jefferson Avenue. Francis Massey lived across the hall from Bundy and knew him as Chris.
You went out to dinner with him one time.
And we went out to dinner once. That's kind of...
Also suspect as the potential killer of Kim Leach. Found that he had spent the night at the Lake City Holiday Inn. That's, pretty good indication you might want to look at him.
Out of the Lake City Holiday Inn the next morning about 7:30. The same morning, Kimberly Leach disappeared.
About a month and a half later, we had found what we were looking for. First thing in the world a prosecutor can do is get personally involved in the case. I cried in my entire adult life. I cried the day we found Kim Leach's body. Little girl who reminded me of my daughter.
And brutally murdered by some monster, just grabbed her up and took her away.
Ted Bundy, we now had the evidence to charge him with both cases. Committed these crimes that you think I committed. Wanted to be wanted. Murders of women in the 6 states.
Bundy was a mad dog killer, and I wanted him executed. I felt that Bundy ought to be tried in Tallahassee first.
Put him into a secure portion of the jail. Went to his cell, and I said, Ted, you're coming with me. And he said, this is a change-up. He thought I was going to take him for a ride for which he would never return. These 3 doctors, their white smocks on, and behind them was a dental chair. We wanted to search any and all parts of his mouth, including his teeth, screaming, you can't do this without my attorney. I said, oh, yes, we can. We showed him the devices that we could use as a degree of force. Mindset changed like he was a different person. Put a smile on and said, Kim, you know you don't need all that stuff. I'm not a violent person.
Everybody realized that there was somebody very special being held by the police. Washington State to Utah, through the Rockies to Florida.
Other investigators came to the jail to try to interview him for other cases. I will tell you, I had a personal vengeance for the person that did this. I wanted to be the one to tell him that the grand jurors of this county have indicted you for murder.
I'm not going to be paraded against the stars. Step out, Mr. Bundy. What do we have here, Ken? Let's see. Oh, it's an indictment, all right? He said he was going to get me, okay? You've got the indictment. It's all you're going to get. Counts murder in the first degree, 3 counts attempted murder in the first degree. Did then and there unlawfully kill a human being, to wit, Margaret Bowman, by strangling and or beating her.
It wasn't a press conference. It was a staged perp walk, big deal, out of him arresting and charging Theodore Bundy.
Traded by said Theodore Robert Bundy from or with a premeditated design.
Guilty. The issue is now is, can we pin it on him to accept what I think they know, and they know that I didn't do these things.
Your copy. We have your copy. You have the copy. We've displayed the prisoner now. I think it's my buried by you. You've been talking for 6 months. I think it's my turn now. Okay. There won't be any press interviews. You've given them out. I'm gagged. You're not. I'll be heard.
Well, that was crazy. That was very intense. You could see in his eyes that he is a postal. He was livid. You can see how angry he was. The man was just going around killing people. I can't believe he escaped twice. He's definitely not going to escape this time. I don't know. Did they execute him? I don't know. Wow, that ending scene was crazy. And you can see how different it is now, because now nobody just walking around, he just walked around free. What happens if he attacked that man? Well, there's a lot of cops there, but still, wow, that was crazy. And he did it in front of everybody. But you know what's so crazy is, after watching for however long this was, that scene, I was like, for 2.5 seconds, y'all, and it's just because I'm a human, I was like, damn, I kind of feel bad for him. And then I was like, wait, he like murdered all these people and a 12-year-old girl. Like, good, freaking do that to him, embarrass him, call him out, let everybody know that he is a murderer. But just for literally 2.5 seconds, because I was just watching this, I just was in awe, and I was like, just hearing it and him breaking it down and saying, and you could see that guy's face. I think feeling bad is the wrong word. Maybe I was in shock and awe. I think that's what it was. I was in shock and awe. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I couldn't believe we had actual footage of this situation happening real time, presently. And the shock and look on his face and him just walking around trying to figure out what to say, what to do, was definitely, I think that's what it was, shock and awe. I'm also curious to see the timeline between Casey, Bundy, and Jeffrey, which I can't say his last name. Never could, I don't even care. But where all of them were related at the same time, because was Ted Bundy first? I think Ted Bundy was first. Because this was the 70s, right? They said? Regardless, guys, comment down below what you thought about this episode. This episode was very intense. This episode was very, very, very intense. And I really can't believe he killed that poor little girl. Like, wow, he is dark. He's very dark. Anyways, comment down below, guys, and I will see you next time with more Ted Bundy.